Do you need excess flood insurance coverage here in Atlanta, Georgia? That's what we're talking about in the video today. So by the end of this video, if you're an Atlanta, Georgia homeowner, you're going to know what excess flood insurance coverage is, why you need it. So let's get started. But before we do, remember, share, subscribe, like the channel, others can find the same valuable content. Hi, I'm Chris, the flood insurance guru. More than 12 years ago, I bought a house in a high-risk flood zone here in Georgia. It was a terrible decision. I was told premiums were going to be $3,000. I was in the wrong flood zone. I almost lost out on my dream home. And that's why I've been helping Atlanta homeowners like yourself for the last 12 years overcome these flood zone obstacles and flood insurance obstacles. Today, though, we're talking about what is excess flood insurance coverage in Georgia and why you might need it as an Atlanta, Georgia homeowner. Atlanta, Georgia just experienced probably one of the worst floods that's going to be in state history overall from Hurricane Helene. A lot of properties flooded that didn't flood in 2009 when it was a big Six Flags flood in Marietta, Georgia. And so what people are finding out now, hey, I did not have enough flood insurance coverage. Why did I not have enough flood insurance coverage? Well, remember, the National Flood Insurance Program only offers coverages up to $250,000 on a building and $100,000 in contents. If you live here in Atlanta, Georgia, you know that $250,000 is probably not going very far in a house. In fact, in some areas, it may only replace a quarter of your house. I saw a house today on the news that probably with a replacement cost of $2 million next to Bobby Jones Golf Course. This property had about 6 feet of water coming into it, which meant this thing probably had about $300,000 in damage to it. No coverage at all, actually, because they weren't in a high-risk flood zone where a mortgage company was requiring it. So they actually had no coverage at all. But what happens when you do have coverage? It's just not enough. Well, that's exactly what excess flood insurance coverage here is in Georgia. It's coverage above that $250,000, the National Flood Insurance Program, or a private company. Say you need $750,000 in coverage, but the government only offers $250,000. Then you can take an additional $500,000 out to get yourself a proper coverage. It's just that you have to exhaust the federal program policy first, and then the claim would be filed with the private company. And this is why excess flood insurance coverage is so important here in Georgia. Now, technically, this can fall under two different claims because technically, an excess flood insurance coverage policy is going to be a private flood insurance policy. Now, can you get an excess flood insurance coverage policy if you already have a private policy? You absolutely can't, because many private companies will only offer certain coverages on the primary policy. Then when the excess policy kicks in, it can give you more coverage, like maybe additional living expenses, which is something the federal government doesn't even offer, where if you need a temporary place to live when your house floods like this right here, you have it. This is exactly what we had happen in Nebraska many years ago when a customer had this coverage and their neighbors did not. She had a hotel paid for 6 months. Imagine the financial stress that takes off your family. Imagine the recovery emotionally. Yes, they're having to relocate, but at least you have a place to live that's paid for. And you don't have to worry about the stress of coming up with additional funds. This is where things like additional living expense and excess flood insurance coverage could be a huge benefit for you here in Georgia. Now, if you want to know more about your flood insurance options, you can click up here in the corner to understand the National Flood Insurance Program and private flood insurance. You can also click in the description of this video, find your flood risk. Maybe it looks like this. Maybe it looks like this, but you want to know that as a homeowner. I'm Chris, the flood insurance guru, and I look forward to speaking to you in our next video for Atlanta, Georgia homeowners. Thank you.